Hello, the internet. Today we are doing an update on my Haworthias that I was having a lot of trouble with. They obviously needed water, and I was watering them, and then they were getting root rot, and so I was trying, and then I lost a whole bunch of roots, and so they're just in bad situation. I did a little bit of testing, and then decided that the one that had done the best out of all the methods that I had tried for reviving them was the one that I had just stuck straight in water. Which surprised me a little bit for a succulent, but who am I to argue? And so after I had that success, I was going to stick all of them in water, and then I decided, oh, I just got some sphagnum moss, so let me see how the sphagnum moss worked. And I'm having, from what I can tell, we're doing well. In that they're not really getting any worse, and I have actually had a little bit of new root growth on these. It's not really obvious on that one. This one, I think, and it's not a lot yet, but if you look right up in there, you can see that those new little growths in there. And so I was heartened by that. The only problem is because I was, did I get any on this one? This one's actually doing pretty rough. This one actually started growing a little bit more, but we're losing some of these bottom leaves, and so what I'm going to end up doing, I think the reason is because normally when you do sphagnum moss, you do it in some sort of a container, and that helps to keep all the moisture like inside the container. And since I had these guys out because they're succulents, I didn't want to put them in a super humid environment. I think the sphagnum moss is drying out a lot more quickly than it could be. And so basically what was happening is it was working well, but then the sphagnum moss would dry out, and then they'd be like, well, there's no more water, so I'm going to shrivel. And so I think my next experiment is going to be... My next experiment is actually going to be using this old betta fish tank that I had, and I'm going to put some sphagnum moss in there and then stick a couple of these guys in here and then watch them very closely and see what happens, because obviously they're succulents. I don't want them to like rot, but I'm hoping that this will help keep the sphagnum moss a little wetter. So these guys are actually all doing, and these guys were doing very poorly, and since I put them on the sphagnum moss, they have plumped up like great. This one's the only one that's still a little rough, and even it's got some like new growth on it. So I'm thinking this is working, and I'm just gonna kind of take it to the next step. I want to get a little bit more new root growth on these guys, and I'm just going to see what I can do in order to have that happen. These guys I actually haven't looked at. This one, I'm not sure whether I put more water in here or because it's more enclosed because of the bowl. Like, this is just like open. This has actually stayed more wet, and so I haven't pulled these out yet to see if there's any new... Oh yeah, wow. So there's like a whole new root right there that has come out. It doesn't feel like we've got any rot on there. This guy's got really stretched though, so I'm not exactly sure. Let's see. Yeah, there's this one's going to be a little harder to see. There's some new growth coming in there, and I think that stuff, can't tell if that's in there. We've got some new growth on those, which is really good. Oh wow, this one has definitely got some nice new growth on there. I just want to see how all these guys are doing. This guy actually had a decent amount of roots already. They're still feeling good. They're not feeling... Oh no, that one's a little bit at the end. Possibly of squishy root rot. But he also... I'm not really seeing any new growth on this guy. But he had some pretty good roots to begin with, so. And you. Okay, and he's got a little bit of root rot going on. So, interesting that some of them were definitely better than others at going down in here and getting growth on them. It's possible that some of the spots were a little bit more wet than others. I don't know. It could be because he's got so many, oh no, there is some new growth in there. Just, there's a couple of leaves that have kind of died. But there's some new growth coming, tip right out of there. So I don't know. It seems to be working and not working at the same time, but I am heartened in that, again, I have not killed these guys. So we're gonna give this, yeah, see, but that is not rotted at all. It's just fascinating to me sometimes, the things that work versus the things that don't work. And I love to just keep experimenting with this stuff because, I don't know, because I find it really, really cool. So we're going to take some of this moss that is already, like this stuff here is still pretty wet from what I was using before. So we're going to stick a thin layer of it. I don't want to put too much because I not want to obviously rot any of this. But we're going to keep it. We're going to keep a much closer eye on it. And we're going to stick this guy, and this one really needs, that one is kind of rough on the roots as well. So we're going to put that in there. We're going to put that in there. Put the dry moss next to him. Some of that will get a little bit wet, but for the most part, it should hold it up pretty straight. Okay, so we're going to do that. I'm going to keep an eye on those guys in there. We're going to see how that goes. So basically, I don't think I'm going to change anything up quite yet. This guy, because he's got so many roots in the first place, I think I'm going to try something different with him. I think I'm not going to have him because I didn't see very much new growth on him, and I really wish I knew what was going on with him because he doesn't have any plumpness in the leaves, and he's just stretching out really, really far. I guess we'll stick him back in here. Hopefully we can get, he's got some new roots on him, so hopefully we can get him some new moisture. Okay, so stay in there. This guy, yeah, he's got some really good roots. So we're going to put you back in there. You, I would really like to see get some good roots, and you're doing fine so far. So back in there with you. And you here, getting some new roots. Like this. Okay, so those guys, I think we're going to make a little bit of space for this one here. It's just a little guy, but he's got a little bit of root growth, and I'd like to kind of stick it in there. And just see how that goes. This guy, I think I'm actually going to put him in water and see what happens again, because it didn't really get any worse, but I'm not really seeing any new growth so much, and I'd like to see if I can get some new growth on him. And this one was doing really well. Oh, I think I dropped a piece of sphagnum moss. My cat's going to eat it. That's okay. Sphagnum moss toxic to cats? Somebody tell me. I'll pick it up. This guy was doing really good just sitting on some sphagnum moss, so I think I'm going to go back with that. And that guy I might put in some soil. So, all right, I'm going to do that, and then I will get back to you. All right, so here's my little setup. Got them here. I decided to put these guys just in a smaller bowl with the sphagnum moss in them. I'm still really nervous about ever, just putting succulents into water. I've had okay luck with it, but I'm still just nervous about it. And there's my guy back here with, we'll see if this traps the humidity in there and makes them grow any better. So that is my update on my Haworthias. And as you can see, they're still alive, so we're at least there, and we've got some new growth. So I am heartened a little bit. If you like this video, please go ahead and give me a like, subscribe if you'd like to continue to see how I do with my Haworthias. And thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with me today. I will see you guys later. All right, bye-bye.